Assalamu alaikum. In this demo, I will be discussing the orchestration of workflows using AWS Step Functions. Now, we can use a number of different AWS services to create our own custom workflows depending upon the service requirement, etc. Now, in the legacy systems, we only used to have Lambda available, but now we have hundreds of other AWS services available to us, more specifically their APIs. Now, in this scenario, I have been given a lambda. I have been asked to make a lambda function that takes in two numbers and checks that if their sum is even or odd. Now, on the other hand, I have populated a DynamoDB table with some values, and over here, the the partition key which is the primary key, is the sum of the number that we have, which is like 1, 2, 3, and 4, and these values are in string, stored as string. I will tell you about this in a moment. And their type, which is their sum, is odd or is even, is also is the is stored as strings. Okay, so now in this case, okay, so this is my lambda function. For example, my lambda function takes in two numbers as a JSON object, of course, and then it computes their sum and then checks if it's even, it would return that the sum is even and its value is whatever, and if it's odd, its sum is type odd and its value is whatever it is. And okay, so I have to explicitly convert it to strings, because this took me quite some time to make, because uh, the the state machine does not like having you can say numbers or integers in between their states, so it only works on strings. So I was not aware of that. So before that, my error was that I was using numbers or integers, parsing into integers in between them, so it was not working that way. So I had to change everything and work on strings. Okay, so our lambda function would take in two numbers, check their sum, and now it would first check that if that number, for example, if I have put in like 2. So 2, if 2 is available in our DynamoDB or table or not. For example, if 2 is available is in our table, so what would happen? It would go to the choice state, and it would go to the fail state, because of course we cannot add 2 in a table. So essentially, our purpose is to just fill our table with even numbers. We have a table which has even and odd numbers, and we want to remove all of the odd numbers and add in as much even numbers as we can. So this state machine is doing that exactly. So now, for example, if an even number already exists in the table, of course we cannot add that number again, so it would go to the fail state. And if an odd number exists in that already, if an odd number exists in that table, it would go and delete that odd item. And for example, if you put in an odd number that does not exist in the table, it would go to the fail state. And if you put in an even number that does not exist in the table, we would put that even number in our table. Now let's have a look at our choices, because I have used a number of complex choices over here. Okay, so our first choice is, for example, if okay, so what happens is that whenever DynamoDB scans, whenever it scans the table, this get item API call would not return an error, even if the item over there is present or not. For example, if the item is present, I would get the result of that item in the next state, with the heading of item under the object of item. Now, for example, if the item is not present, I would still receive a HTTP 200 status, and however, in that JSON object, the item would not be present. Right. So what I've done is, for example, this is the get item output. Its output, for example, if this function's output is not present, right? If its output is not present, which means that we haven't found anything, which means that that item does not exist, and it is odd. Yeah, and the sum is odd. Also, what I'm also doing is that I'm also passing the input of this object towards the output. I'm parsing I'm sending the input as it is to the output of this function as well. So what happens is that it checks that if the item is present. sorry, if item is present over there, yani ke if if the DynamoDB is able to get an item, find that particular item that we have asked for. If it's not available, and the type of the type of number was odd, so it would go to the fail state. Same is case over here. Now now if the item is available, yeah, in this case, for example, if the item is available, which is the even item, it is available and its type is of course even, so we do not want to add that object again. If it's being recorded, we do not want to add that object again, so we would transfer it to the fail state. Now in this case, for example, if the item is available, get item dot output is get item underscore output is essentially the output of this state. And if it's positive, which means that it finds it has found our required item from the DynamoDB table, and it is odd, right? So we would be deleting that item. And on the other hand, if the item is not present, for example, get item output dot item, if it's not if it's not present, which means that our DynamoDB was not able to get DynamoDB get item was not able to find a particular item in the DynamoDB table, and the type of our input was even, then we would be adding that object to our even we would be adding that object to our function, sorry, to our DynamoDB table, and of course that would proceed back to the success state. Now let me show you its executions. Okay, let me show something. For example, you can have a look over here that in this case, I don't remember what the input was. Okay, so whatever the input was, I've forgotten. No, okay, so the value was 10, right? So the sum was 10, and 10 was not available in my DynamoDB table. So you can see that get item dot output does not have a field called 10, so called item. So it does not have a field called item. So what would happen is that it would go to the it would add this value 10 and is even to our DynamoDB table. I think I have deleted this item right now. So let us run another thing. Now let me show you something else. Now in the case, for example, let me refresh this. Okay, so we can see that I have 2 available, so let me put in 2 over here. See, it would go to the fail state because 2 is available. We can see that over here its input was, or we can see this, the output of this function was that get item output has a field called item. So which means that it was our get item DynamoDB get item was able to find our field called 2. So as it is already available, we did not have to put it, and it went to the fail state. Now let us iterate over all the possibilities. Now for example, I have 1 available over here, and let me delete this. So I would be adding 0 over here, 1 and 0, which means the sum is 1 and it's odd. And we can see that it is a success, and we were able to delete this odd item. And we can see over here, we can refresh this, and 1 is not present over here. Now let me try deleting 1 again and see what happens. Okay, let me show you the transitions as well. See, we were able to we were able to get this item, and we have this this input available over here under the get item output. Okay, so let me try this again. See, because we do not have this available right now, it would show an error. It will go to the fail state. Yes, it went to the fail state, and you can see in the output that the get item output does not have a field called 1. So this does not have a field called item over here. So this went to the fail state. Now let us populate an item. You can see that we have 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. Let's populate 10, or maybe 12. Let's add 12. Maybe let's add 20. Okay, where am I? Let's add 10. Okay, this. Oh, sorry. Okay. this went to 11. Sorry, I made a mistake. This went to the fail state because the sum was 11 and 11 was not available in our dynamic table. We were essentially asking this to delete the value called 11. So I had to put in 9 over here. I made a mistake. Sorry. This is all right. So we can see that get item. Sorry, get item output does not have a field called item. So this state becomes true when item get item output does not have a field called item and the value, sorry, the sum, yani the input is even. We would put that object into our DynamoDB table. You can see that this should be populated over here. It would come at the top. Yes, you can see 10 is over here because this is a string, so 1 and 0 would be put at the top. And what else is left? Let's try putting in 8 because we won't be able to get this. Sorry, 9, and let's put in 7. The sum is 8. Now we would not be able to do so because this will already exist over here, and this would go into the fail state. Yes, you can see that this went to the fail state. So I guess I've covered all of the possible scenarios over here where we have tried adding an even number. If it exists, it would. If it does not exist in the table, it would add it into my table, and if it exists, it would go to the fail state. And for the odd number, if the odd number does not exist, we can, of course we cannot delete it, so it would go to the fail state. And if that odd number exists, it would simply delete that odd number from my table. Now let's delete some odd numbers. We can see, let's delete 5. You can say let's delete 5 and 3. Let's delete 5. Oh, sorry. See, we were able to delete this item, and 5 should not be present over here. Yep, 5 is deleted. Alright, so moving on towards the next function. The next task was creating a function using ASL only, creating a state machine using ASL only. So in this state machine, I simply have one state, and I am using the same lambda function that I have over here. This lambda function, you can see that it's this is its ARN. And now we would be simply starting this as state 1. This is our state 1, and we can define multiple states over here. Previously I had multiple states, but at the end I just wanted to make it simple, so I removed the other states. So this is the state 1, and its type is task, where we would be executing something. So what would be happening is that we would have this resource, which is the lambda function. This would be executing, and it would end over here. So this is a very simple state machine. You can also add the try and the retry and catch fields over here, but that is I don't think this is required right now. So let me simply run this. Okay, so let's see, what should our input be? So this is our input. Yes, now this is our input, and output is odd and 5, right? So this is it for the PR, and thank you for listening.